Yep, there it is.
There it is.
Can you believe that we've been shooting strange projectiles out of shotguns since 2011?
Okay.
Oh!
In this video, I want to showcase some of the best projectiles that we've shot so far.
Imagine!
The hardened steel industrial ball bearing, absolute the simplest of designs, no stabilization needed. It's like a gigantic BB. These accurate projectiles were removed from a radial bearing, probably out of a large industrial motor. So essentially they were free because they were just scrap. Delron is using the Mossberg 590.
I think you hit it.
If you can't hit what you're aiming at with a projectile, it's no good. The ball bearings were consistently accurate and repeatable.
Went right through it.
Right through it.
The ball bearing had no problem at all going through 16 inches of ballistic gel. One of the very first specifically machined projectiles that we shot was this armor-piercing dart made by HW97 Carbine. And he took many hours to create this in his home shop. It's just one of the coolest looking projectiles we've ever shot. This design was based off a lot of research from designs for anti-tank rounds. It worked great, and that hardened steel tip wasn't even dulled after it went through that steel plate. A 15-year-old viewer named Michael changed the way we looked at projectiles by creating these ultra lightweight 3D printed pellet shaped slugs. Based on our own experience, lightweight projectiles very rarely worked. 3D printed projectiles either flew very erratically or they simply shattered from the intense G-shock from the shotgun. Now I gave these slugs very little chance of working, I'll be honest with you. So yes, I was a victim of my own prejudice based off what worked and what didn't work in the past. So Michael definitely proved us wrong by creating one of the best flying projectiles we've ever shot. This pellet had a couple of steel BBs in the nose that Michael put in there for weight to make it nose heavy, and it performed quite well. Now since I thought these projectiles would be just way too light to even function, I decided to drill and tap the cavity in the nose and put bolts in them. And this was kind of a plan B because I wanted to give these things a fighting chance to even work. I didn't want Michael's efforts to go in vain.
Ooh.
Went right through it.
Yeah.
While the meddling that I did by adding the bolts to these didn't really affect the flight characteristics of these, it did add a little more mass to them, so they did more damage, like to this piece of concrete roofing tile. The thing that really impressed me about these was they were created by a 15-year-old. He's 16 now. He'll probably get mad if I don't mention that. And I look back and think, what the heck was I doing at 15? I wasn't designing supersonic projectiles for shotguns, that's for sure. Michael's design worked consistently well, and he made it look super easy. Many viewers who don't really understand supersonic aerodynamics didn't understand the complexities that Michael had to face to make these slugs work. Made out of a toggle bolt and some faucet washers, the toggle bolt rounds were one of the first mechanical slugs that we ever shot. Once leaving the barrel, the spring-loaded arms would pop open, and they'd also kind of self-regulate, opening it up just enough to create the right amount of drag. Now there's a lot of things that can go wrong with this design, like the screw can get all bent up from the G-shock when it's shot, the arms may not open up, and if it survives leaving the barrel, the balance may not be right, the aerodynamic shape may be wrong, and there's just so many things that go wrong with this wacky design. Despite being super long, it still fit into our pump action Mossberg 590 just fine. Somehow this crazy contraption actually worked, and it worked as we envisioned it, which is rare. But we definitely have plans on making some more of these and shooting them at further distances to see how they perform. I think the micro arrows were one of the most complicated projectiles we ever shot. These consisted of a Delron shaft, which was threaded, and that threaded into a machined brass head. Then this assembly was stuck into a 3D printed support base, which distributed the energy evenly across the back of the arrow. And then he made 3 3D printed sabots. These, of course, guide the projectile straight down the barrel, but they also have a secondary use as they transfer the energy from that support base up to that brass head, so when the round is shot, the Delron shaft doesn't collapse on itself. It's pretty ingenious. And this is one of many designs that Tim Hamilton from Tactical G-Code has sent us to test out for him.
Oh, pretty accurate.
This is a projectile that worked in stages. As it was shot, the 3 sabot pieces separated, then the wadding separated, then that support base slid off, leaving just the arrow to continue on to that pink table. Now the 3D printed base continued on too and hit the table, and you can really appreciate how brittle that 3D printed material really is when it just shatters when it hits. Now the Delron arrow shaft did end up stuck in the table, but the heavy brass sharp nose on that thing continued on, drove right through the table, and ended up impacting the sand behind the table. For something that was so complex, it worked great. Influenced by the success of Michael's 3D printed pellets, a viewer named Daniel designed and machined these kind of supersized gamma rocket slugs. These are machined out of aluminum with a steel ball bearing pressed in the nose. One thing we have learned is that Diabolo shape, or that traditional air rifle pellet shape, is extremely stable even at supersonic velocities. And this projectile was no exception, flying at a very high velocity. You can see the shock wave coming off the nose. It impacted so hard it welded that steel ball onto the plate. And we're not done with Daniel yet. He has sent us some other designs that we'll be testing in the near future. Now, you probably never thought that shooting food would work very well, but we took some Vienna sausages and froze them with dry ice, and it created a very strong, almost plastic-like structure similar to pykrete.
Hi, this is Matt. I'm here with TAOFLEDERMAUS, and we want to find out if you can destroy a Nokia phone with a Vienna sausage.
There you go.
So yes, you can create an accurate, functional meat slug out of Vienna sausages and actually destroy the so-called indestructible Nokia cell phone with one of these things. And like I said, these are very similar to pykrete. Instead of wood fiber or paper fiber, you have meat fiber, I guess, in there, and moisture frozen together, creating a very strong, complex matrix. Now these slugs are not very heavy. I'm very surprised that he was able to hit the phones with them, to be honest. But because they were traveling at such a high velocity, they just shredded those cell phones.
Man, oh man.
But that's not the only edible ammunition we've ever made. We made some shotgun slugs out of melted down gummy bears. Now we have shot at 5-pound gummy bears many times, and they are extremely durable. How will it work as a projectile? Let's find out. Now that's a really lightweight projectile. Gummy bears don't weigh very much. But what we had going on here was the sticky gummy bear material adhered to that long wadding from the shotgun shell, and that wadding acted like a tail to kind of stabilize it and make it fly straight. It worked really well. I think there's only one man on this planet that would even conceive making a shotgun slug out of titanium. Yeah, the same material that most of the SR-71 Blackbird is constructed of. And of course that man is Tim, once again from Tactical G-Code. These things were beautiful, and they were kind of constructed with a similar design as the mini ball, if I said that right. And of course these are another really expensive, well-engineered projectile that Tim has sent us over the years. Now, the titanium slug performed quite well, very stable, slamming into that piece of wood and slamming into this stack of magazines. A normal lead slug would just be absolutely destroyed going through either one of these targets. However, because titanium is so strong, we were able to recover these slugs, and as you can see, there's virtually no damage at all to these. The other one in the wood was just like this. Really amazing. And finally, how could we possibly top titanium? How about carbon fiber? And yes, once again, another genius idea by Tim from Tactical G-Code. He said these were a pain in the butt to machine. They are shaped like the pellet rifle pellets, so we have a pretty good idea they're going to fly good, right? Now, if that's not enough for you, you also insert these carbide penetrator cores in the nose. Carbide's a very dense, heavy material, and it's also very hard. So these are designed to go through body armor. I have no idea why anyone would make a carbon fiber shotgun slug, to be honest, but that's just how Tim from Tactical G-Code thinks. And of course, these slugs performed beautifully and actually pierced that AR-500 steel body armor plate, which is supposed to be able to stop military rounds up to like 308. In fact, it's almost unimaginable that a shotgun round can pierce a plate like this. But I'll tell you what, Tim pulled it off. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hey, if you are not a subscriber and you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. Now, in case you didn't know, we're trying to come up with a t-shirt design, and this design is based on viewer feedback. Now, this is the latest modification. You'll notice that for some reason the projectiles are red. I'm not sure why that is, but I think he's definitely heading in the right direction. Let me know what you think. I know we can't please everyone, though. Thanks for watching.